Hi, I'm Tori and I am a doctor of physical therapy who specializes in pelvic dysfunction, which means I treat things that can go wrong around the pelvis, and this includes different kinds of sexual dysfunction. So today I wanted to talk about orgasm and its relationship to the pelvic floor. More specifically, how orgasm can be improved by treating pelvic floor dysfunction. In order to make sense of this, it's important to understand how orgasm relates to the pelvic floor in the first place. So we'll begin there before discussing how dysfunction can impact orgasm and potential treatment options. But before we begin, a word from today's sponsor. I want to thank Intimid, an intimate wellness product company, and their V-Well dilator set for sponsoring today's video. If you are familiar with my content, then you know that I've not only prescribed dilators as a provider, but also used them therapeutically as a patient myself. I sincerely believe that they can be incredible healing tools, and for those who are seeking a silicone set, I am very fond of Intimid's V-Well product. Not only are these dilators made of paraben-free, medical-grade, body-safe silicone with a very smooth finish for increased comfort, but the entire body of each dilator is also tapered from tip to end, instead of just the tip, which can significantly decrease insertion pressure. Plus, the dilator set comes with a size and dimension guide that tells you the exact length and circumference of each dilator, which can be really helpful when it comes to goal setting and understanding which levels are most appropriate for you. Finally, the bases are not only easy to hold, making each dilator easier to control and move during sessions, but they're also the only product on the market with bases that can be used to create suction, which means the base can be attached to a smooth surface for a completely hands-free option. Again, I am a big fan of dilators and I am a big fan of this product. So if you feel that you would benefit from Intimid's V-Well dilator set, you can check the description below for a discount code to get 10% off of your first order. Thank you again to Intimid for sponsoring today's video. As always, timestamps as well as links to any studies or resources mentioned today can be found in the description below. And without further ado, let's get into it. So how does orgasm relate to the pelvic floor? Well, an orgasm is actually the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the pelvic floor muscles. If we pretend that this is my pelvis, or my pubic bone is here facing you, and my sacrum and tailbone are here behind facing away from you, then we can envision the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is a group of muscles that live at the base of the pelvis. They connect almost like a hammock from pubic bone to tailbone, and they serve a number of very important functions in the body, including orgasm. Now, your pelvic floor is just like any other group of muscles, which is to say that its range of motion, its ability to shorten or contract, as well as its ability to lengthen or stretch, plays a really big role in its ability to function. If we pretend that the pelvic floor is my bicep, it's much easier to visualize and appreciate not only how important the role of range of motion is in its function, but also how it relates to orgasm. Imagine that this is my pelvic floor at rest. And this is a pelvic floor contraction, sometimes called a Kegel, back to rest. And then this is pelvic floor relaxation or lengthening, sometimes called a reverse Kegel, and back to rest. It is the full spectrum of that movement, all the way from full contraction to full relaxation that defines range of motion. Now, during sexual excitement, we usually see pelvic floor tension, pelvic floor contraction, until someone reaches a tipping point, and that initiates orgasm. And orgasm itself is the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the pelvic floor muscles, and usually it's followed by a big relax before a return to baseline. If we pair that understanding of range of motion with that understanding of what happens leading up to and during orgasm, then it's much easier to make sense of how pelvic floor dysfunction can impact orgasm. One way to simplify pelvic conditions is to group them based on how they likely impact or affect the range of motion of the pelvic floor, which is to say, on one end of the spectrum, we'd have shorter, tighter pelvic floor muscles that are almost stuck at the top of the range, or said another way, have an impaired ability to lengthen or relax. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we'd see longer, laxer pelvic floor muscles that have an impaired ability to contract or shorten. These pelvic floor muscles would almost be stuck at the bottom of their range. Now, in either scenario, the pelvic floor muscles are weak. A muscle needs access to its full range of motion in order to be strong, which means muscles that are too short are weak and muscles that are too long are weak. If you want to feel this phenomenon in your own body, you can walk through this example with me in real time. Find a somewhat heavy object, like a full water bottle, for example, and lift it up. Again, focusing on biceps, notice that when you lift an object, you automatically use quite a bit of your biceps range of motion. Compare what it feels like to lift this item naturally when you have access to that full range versus when you only have access to the very bottom of your range or to the very top. In either case, the object feels heavier and lifting it is more difficult. That's because, again, a muscle needs access to its full range of motion in order to be strong. And it's the pelvic floor's range of motion paired with its strength that dictate not only someone's ability to reach an orgasm, but also the intensity of their orgasm. If someone's pelvic floor is shorter, then they may have difficulty when it comes to the tensioning in the pelvic floor that happens leading up to orgasm. That tensioning may be difficult or painful or cause other symptoms. And if they are able to reach orgasm, the orgasm itself might not feel as intense or pleasurable because the pelvic floor simply can't move as much. On the other hand, if someone's pelvic floor is longer, they may struggle to generate enough tension in the first place to initiate orgasm, to reach that tipping point. And then if they are able to generate enough tension and orgasm, the orgasm itself, again, may feel less pleasurable, less intense, simply because the pelvic floor doesn't have access to its full range of motion. So, how does treating pelvic floor dysfunction improve orgasm? Well, treatment is going to be aimed at improving pelvic floor deficits, like range of motion and strength. If someone is on the shorter end of the spectrum, the first focus of treatment is going to be on restoring length, restoring that range of motion, practicing relaxation, and then that person's strength will be reassessed after they have access to their range of motion. And if they need to work on strengthening, they will. On the other end of that spectrum, if someone has a longer pelvic floor, well then the first focus of treatment is going to be on pelvic floor activation, true pelvic floor strengthening. And then as that person grows stronger, their range of motion will be reassessed and treated if necessary. And if you have a vulva Dilators, like Intimed's V-Well set, can be a really helpful treatment tool in either case. If you're on the shorter end of the spectrum, they can help to promote length and relaxation in the pelvic floor, and if you're on the longer end of the spectrum, they can also be really helpful tactile cues to promote activation and pelvic floor contractions. Look, you are worthy and deserving of a healthy and pleasurable sex life if that's something you want. And it is perfectly okay if that includes the ability to reach orgasm, the ability to experience a certain intensity of orgasm, or both. If after watching this video you feel you may benefit from pelvic floor physical therapy, you can check the description for a link to a directory to help you find a provider near you. And on that note, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, let me know down below what I can do to improve in the future. Feel free to comment absolutely anything, including feedback, content suggestions, questions you have, experiences, if you're comfortable sharing them, really anything. I do try really hard to read and respond to all of my comments. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram, and finally, if you want to see more content from me, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I make videos not only about pelvic things, like today's video, but also about life things. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.